So then, we are back with the modern understandings from the time of the Second Tabernacle services, a refined Aramaic English translation of the Word. This translation comes from the original manuscripts of the prophets of the Tzayelic lineage, so then we can understand the time of the end as per Mashiyach the prophet. We find layers of understanding of the spring feast, the autumn feast, and also the returning of the cities of the Mashiyach laid waste for many centuries. As we read then Yeshayahu, firstly then we understand there is a section on the spring feast regarding the 61st chapter, and the Mashiyach obviously many centuries later, he completed the spring feast completely. But let's then understand what's going on in the world. As far as we can understand, the world is going through a period of transition, and not only these, but people, they are having the same problems as during the time of the Mashiyach. Let's read a section where the Mashiyach then spoke in Mashiyach, so then we can understand the content and the context of the entire understanding. When the Mashiyach himself speaks, we understand as he was reading the Torah, he was speaking on behalf of the Creator himself. What did he say in a specific understanding as far as this? For what does it profit a man if he gains the entire world and then loses his soul? This was then the entire understanding when the Mashiyach came and he was explaining the importance of understanding the path, the Torah, and then the coming of Ruach HaKodesh. People around him, they want more money. They always want prosperity. And the Mashiyach had a real problem with his people because they were blinded as far as the understanding of the coming of Ruach HaKodesh. So then, in today's world, you find there are many religions, and some of them have concocted a savior of their own. There are religions in this world that they tried to translate the original manuscripts of the Hebrews, and they did a very bad job. So then, what can we understand as far as what the Mashiyach said regarding what is it then for you if you gain the entire world, and then at the end of your life, then your soul is lost in Sheol, in the infernal? If we don't understand tabernacling, when we die, our souls go straight down to Sheol. That's where torment is at. And the Mashiyach was there himself for 72 hours, and it was not very nice down there. So people, they can take a real gamble with their lives when they think this world can satisfy without tabernacling. If a person is not engaged in understanding tabernacling, studying and producing fruit, upon death, a person goes straight down, and there is no coming back from the dead in this age. So then, as far as we can understand from this section, what can we then sympathize with the Mashiyach himself when he was explaining as far as his disciples and also the people listening? What was then going through the mind of the Mashiyach when he said these? So then, the Mashiyach then, he was around and he was teaching, and then came a point where the Mashiyach himself then, as he walked through his people, he began to talk regarding then prosperity like parables, because the Mashiyach couldn't find any situation tangible to get the people's focus, because they were so sight-blinded by prosperity. And true, in a sense, because the Roman Empire was then obviously charging a lot of taxes during the time. As then the Mashiyach was explaining these situations, he had to adapt some sort of understanding from heaven versus then prosperity, so then people would exclude themselves by their own choices. As far as we can understand, It is easy for a person always blaming the situation of choices in life. Choices in life are not only based from the world's viewpoint, but what you understand of tabernacling. Sometimes understanding tabernacling provokes anger in the world because the spirit world dislikes the presence of the Mashiyach. So when you judge a person regarding the choices a person has made, must you then understand what level of tabernacling are you speaking of if you think you are so prosperous? Because even if you gain the entire world in your viewpoint, at the end of life you go straight down. With enlightenment of these tabernacling, the choices of a person obviously is based from what the Torah explains. Then there were the Shilishim, the disciples, and they also made choices regarding the Torah and tabernacling. And those choices, they were not very easy, the consequences of understanding these choices. But those people who are deceived by the world, they always try to blame somebody else for their faults. People are never satisfied. They are always scheming. They are always thinking and making plots to destroy someone else's lives. And then, at the end of it, the riches of the world cannot save them. So then, the Mashiyach said, the kingdom of heaven is like then these person that went out in another country and left a servant behind to take care of his trade. Then he went to a far land, and then when he came back, there was a plot to destroy then the son. He was speaking obviously of himself. He knew the people were evil. He knew the people were not wanting to study tabernacling. He knew each of those people, each of them would end up in Sheol. Yet the Mashiyach then compared the situation regarding this parable in what level they would understand as far as tabernacling was concerned. So then, as the Mashiyach was then explaining this parable, what was he expecting a response in return? The Mashiyach was expecting a response from the Torah, indicating sections regarding then the promise of the Spirit, such as then when Yeshayahu was explaining as far as the Spirit of the Creator himself was upon him, and explaining then the miracles, or then the 7 spirits of Elohim, 7 functions. This was precisely what the Mashiyach was expecting from. And the people, unfortunately, they perceived in another way. And the God of this world, he holds a position, and he can give lots of riches. But then, can the riches of this world save your soul at the end? And the Mashiyach answered, obviously not. Some people, they tend to have the understanding of riches of heaven as the tangible riches of this contaminated and evil world. The Mashiyach said, either you serve money or you serve the kingdom. And observe the way the Mashiyach spoke the parable. The kingdom of heaven is like. The kingdom of heaven is like. He's explaining this situation. The new world coming is like this. And he gave the understanding, pointing to the Torah, but the people interpreted with their own fleshly ways. They wanted prosperity at that time. And the Mashiyach was obviously explaining of tabernacling and Ruach HaKodesh. People were not interested. As in today's world, people, when they become comfortable with their riches and this world, then they want the kingdom of heaven as entertainment. They don't want to save their own souls based from choices on behalf of the Torah, knowing there shall be consequences because of their own choices. Yet the Mashiyach said, we must fight and then understand the importance of troubles in this age, so then we find ourselves worthy when we reach the end of our lives. Rich people, most of the time, they perceive as the new kingdom to come as entertainment in this age. As long as they are doing fine, trade is fine, and they have a nice family and things are situated nice and easy, then kingdom of heaven is entertainment. They go like once every 7 days and they listen to a pastor speaking junk from another kind of religion, and they want to be entertained. And entertainment should be something that these people then they are included, as if God himself from the Torah was then patting them on the back and, oh, what a great job you did in this world, as if the Creator wanted their money, when he doesn't. The situation is not what we can do or achieve on behalf of the kingdom, but what can we understand of the Torah and tabernacling, firstly to save our own souls, not his. And the Mashiyach explained this section very simply in the 24th chapter of Mashiyach. The Mashiyach spoke this situation as he was then teaching the holy instructions. Then the disciples were there, and they were very excited because there was this expectation of prosperity on the land. And always there is a prosperity on the land when the Mashiyach is involved, because it's the byproduct of his presence. When he was explaining the 24th chapter of Mashiyach, what went on in the land? The Mashiyach then had returned from the dead, and he was spending his year 12 months with his people, so then the people would then become more familiar with the holy instructions, because they were away from properly maintaining the holy feasts, as in Leviticus the 23rd chapter. So the Mashiyach, so to speak, he had to take them by the hand and teach them what it means maintaining those holy feasts, because he was obviously ushering his tabernacling. It was going to stay on the earth for 1,000 years. They knew this. They were very aware of it. Sections of it. Yet, as he was there, then they went to the Mount of Olives. Then came the disciples deceived with prosperity. What was the tone coming from the disciples? And then they said, oh, don't you observe these? And they were trying to make an advertisement of the temple, and then they trying to say the Mashiyach could become their king. The disciples could give him a position of power in this earth. And what was the answer of the Mashiyach? Let no man deceive you, because not a stone is going to be left upon another. So then, the disciples were in another phase in their lives. They were thinking of prosperity. They were thinking of restoring the kingdom as it was during the time of Shimon, where the kingdom was very prosperous. And they wanted Rome outside of their land. This is what they wanted. But then the Mashiyach was not for it. He was explaining there was then 1,000 years coming, and then his tabernaclings must be done so in a certain way. But the disciples, they had another agenda. They had the agenda of themselves becoming prosperous first. Then they want to make a decision on behalf of the Mashiyach. Proud scoundrels. They didn't do on purpose, because came in a natural way of their evil understandings of not having tabernacling properly set in their minds. And the Mashiyach said, you are deceived. Let no man deceive you. Not a stone is going to be left upon another. And then let no man deceive you. So every situation that the disciples they were thinking of went down. And then later on they said, so then, since we don't receive any of what we are then given, then what is it then the end of the world? They were not even interested. Try to understand this point. They want an understanding from the Mashiyach on the terms of the disciples at that time. And the Shilishim then, or the disciples, they went along with the Mashiyach only to please him. So then, speak of what you think of this time of the end, when the world is going to end. They were not interested. But the Mashiyach then said, once again, let no man deceive you. You people are deceived. What you want from this world is not part of the kingdom to come government. I don't care what kind of a religion you have, what kind of belief you have. If you don't understand the instructions as per the enlightenment of the Mashiyach, then your soul is lost. At the end of it, you breathe your last and go straight down. There is no coming back from Sheol. Then the Mashiyach went on. You are bound to listen then of rumors of wars and war. And then he went on and explained the entire future. At the end of it, the disciples were not interested. They want to make the Mashiyach king during this time and then do what they wanted. Thus, churches, establishments, trade in this world, they are always searching for more prosperity. And at the end, when they die, the soul goes straight down. There is no excuse, no if, oughts, or buts. So then, the Mashiyach then was explaining a time where people they would make choices in their own lives, and the Mashiyach was preparing them not only of this basic fact. The people they were themselves involved and entangled with the very basics of human troubles. He wasn't even explaining of autumn feast yet. The dangers of giving oneself into this world and rejecting tabernacling. He wasn't even speaking what he saw down in Sheol. And it was so bad down there that we do not have not even a record, because people were afraid. As the Mashiyach was explaining during this time of 12 months, there was prosperity on the land, because it's the byproduct of his presence. However, people were scheming, and the Mashiyach then was not along with them. That's why then when we read the parables, then we understand the kingdom of heaven is like. The kingdom of heaven is like. The kingdom of heaven is like. And the people did not like it. So then, what can we glean from this understanding as far as what's going on in the world? There is then the Chinese system. Prophesied these from the prophets of the instructions, from Daniel, from Mashiyach. I said many times, more than 2 years ago, nearly 4 years, this Chinese system is coming, the Chinese system is coming, the Chinese system is coming. People sometimes mock, and then the Chinese system came. So then, when people, they are proud and they don't understand the holy instructions, they have a tendency of mocking what they don't understand. Not only these, but the Chinese system is going to become even more prosperous, as then they are going to make systems in other language so they can make trade amongst themselves. The Chinese system is becoming grander, grander, and grander. And it's becoming more popular and linking up more countries. China is obviously leading the world's trade. These, however, gives us an understanding of a tabernacling spoken of by the Mashiyach himself, and then misinterpreted by the Shilishim. Chapter 1:8 of Revelation, or then Galah. If you are a saved person, obviously you understand Revelation. You cannot be saved if you don't understand Revelation, because you are not revealed. Explains chapter 1:8, "Come out of them, my people, don't be joined with their destruction." Thus, we understand we should not mix our understanding of the Spirit with the prosperity of this world. The Mashiyach was very specific, and he said what he meant, and he meant what he said. As far as we can understand, what then nations are doing? There are some nations, for instance, they have absolutely no way out of many situations. And the only way out is linking up with China. It's the only way of working. Next time we're going to read more of Mashiyach the prophet. We're going to read more of the Shilishim, and most importantly of the Mashiyach. So please stay tuned. Much more coming up.